Hey, am I live? Is this a live video? Catlin Davidson, 5 others. Hey, if anyone can hear me, can you give me a little message saying that you can hear me? Sup? Lior, can you hear me? Oh, cool. Thumbs up for hearing me. Hey, well, thank you everyone who's here so far. The guest is not here yet. Had this idea just now, called, can't even remember what it's called now. Show us your shit. Show us your shit. Basically, what I thought is that we're all at home right now. We're all surrounded in the stuff that we treasure. And this is the perfect time to just go, let me see what you've got. I know just through the stuff that I do for work, quite a few interesting people who do have lots of interesting stuff. The guy who's going to join us in a few minutes, hopefully, is Alex Bell. He's one of the QI elves. I guess you may have heard him if you've heard No Such Thing as a Fish. Super interesting guy, super awesome. He's one of my best buddies. And the guy, like me, collects a lot of stuff. Like he's constantly buying stuff, and we're constantly sending each other stuff going, this is on eBay and you got to get this. So, hey, and the whole idea behind this, by the way, is that the comments you guys are doing right now, Joel, what's up, man, is send us questions, send us facts, and we'll talk it through. So I don't know where he is. So before we begin, can I give you guys a recommendation? This is the best book I have read in such a long time. This is amazing. This is a Beatles book by Craig Brown. Craig Brown's a guy who writes all the satire in the diary satire in that Private Eye. Like every week there's that diary where it has a sort of, this is Princess Margaret doing a diary. That's him. But he turned to nonfiction a few years ago, and this is his latest book. It is unbelievably good. It's so funny. It's so interesting. He wrote this other amazing book called 1-to-1, which came out, oh God, it was like 5 years ago. And this is what turned me on to him. This, if you've not read 1-to-1, this is honestly one of the best books you'll read in a very, very long time. It's these 1001 worded essays where it's an interesting meeting between two historical characters. So it will be Charlie Chaplin meets Gandhi. And then, oh, Alex is here. Okay, hang on a sec. Alex, I guess I'll see him when you guys see him. All right, I'll just keep talking about this book. Hey, Alex. Hey, buddy.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, man. You're going to have to wait a sec. I'm just in the middle of telling a
Sure.
story about
Sorry
this
to
book.
interrupt.
Okay, well, do you know this book, 1-to-1 by Craig Brown? Have I told you about this book?
I think you have told me about it, but I don't think I was listening
Yeah.
at the time, so I'll
Okay,
listen
so
again.
this is the basic conceit of it. It's called 1-to-1, as in it's one-to-one encounters. There are 101 encounters in the book. Each essay of those encounters is 1,001 words. And the first person in the book loops to the last person in the book. So the whole book is circular. So
Oh, wow.
it opens up with a story about Adolf Hitler almost being run over by a guy who was the son of a British lord who had a lot of friends like Rudyard Kipling and so on. And he knocks him over in Germany. And he knocks him over, but he only hurts his leg. But he later down the line goes, I almost killed Hitler. Imagine how I could have altered history if I'd mowed over Hitler in this moment. And it's this big thing that goes through his head. So that's chapter 1. Chapter 2 is then this guy, this Lord's son, meeting Rudyard Kipling, and then encounter that they had, which is really great. And then chapter 3 is Rudyard Kipling meets, so it's like a chain reaction.
Oh, wow.
But the whole book is secular. If you've not read this book, everyone like Final Destination, yeah. Whoever said that. But honestly, hey, Jamie Morton from My Dad Read
Oh,
the
hey,
Corners.
Jamie.
Hey, Jamie. Yes, it is amazing, Jamie. I was going to message you today, Jamie, see if you're okay. I've been thinking a lot about you. Okay, Alex.
There's a
Welcome.
book, do you remember there's a book that we found? I
Mate,
think I have it.
I was just doing my first debut introduction to
Sorry.
this new series. No, what were you going to say? Let's get to that first.
There was a book by Richard Curtis, I think, that was called Who's Had Who. That's
Yes,
a book
yeah.
of every famous person who's had sex with every other famous person, which I have somewhere, I think.
I have it as well. If you can find it, show us your shit.
I'll have a
Welcome to
look,
Show
yeah.
Us Your Shit.
Oh, no, I think my flatmates made me put it away because it wasn't pushy enough.
So I have that book as well, and the co-author is Helen Fielding of Bridget Jones's Diary.
Oh, yeah, that was it, yeah.
And Simon Bell, yeah, and they go through history looking at who has shagged who,
And it's like
along
all
the
the ones we
way.
know, all the rumors, all the really fun stories. It's a really good book. And also
Such a
just a
good book.
crazy book for like, how did these people, like Richard Curtis and Helen Sharman, how did they have time to research and write that like in the middle of everything else they're
In the
doing?
middle
It's
of
ridiculous.
everything they're
It's
doing.
crazy that that is a
Yeah.
book.
I think it was pre Bridget Jones for her, but so she had Cause Celeb, I think, out at the time. Anyway, so the opening of the show is book recommendations as a result of your tardiness. Where the hell were you?
Sorry.
But this is the book I'm recommending. It's Craig Brown's latest book, 1, 2, 3, 4, The Beatles in Time. And it is, if you're interested in writing a book and you want to be inspired by structure and by the density of idea, it's basically a book of glimpses into moments within their career. But he's done the research that you would never usually do if you were telling a biography. He's found out the surrounding things that the Beatles influenced along the way. So he'll do a chapter on Cliff Richard, but he's researched Cliff Richard for all the years of his thoughts about the Beatles, just to put it into this book and show how bitter he is when the Beatles exploded. And their time in Hamburg when George Harrison vomited into a puddle, and he didn't vomit, he vomited a puddle in the room he was staying in, and he refused to clean it up. And the cleaner refused to clean it up because she said that he should clean it up. It's common decency. And he said no. So they leave it there and it grows for months and months, and mold grows on it and it becomes a mound and it gets bigger and bigger, and they give it a name. And then eventually the owner of this club that they were staying in Hamburg picks it up with a spade and throws it outside, and the entire street comes out for a funeral for it in this dumpster because it's become such a famous thing. It's all in this. It's awesome.
Oh my God. I love that you've managed to emulate the situation we have in the office, which is that we sit opposite each other and I have to sit through you telling me really, really long tracks of books.
This is literally our work life, isn't it?
To do the same thing.
Yeah, this is it. This is our work life. Alex will be trying to work, and then I will just constantly be ruining his day by saying, dude, the Beatles
book. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, welcome to Show Us Your Shit. This is a big new program that's going to take over Instagram. I'm going to be the next Mrs. Hinch with you, Alex. And the idea is that we're all at home right now. We're all surrounded by the stuff that we love. And so why not just show us all the best stuff that you've been collecting throughout your life? And Alex is the perfect candidate for the opening idea of this, because this is a guy who tracks down the most obscure things.
I have a lot of shit.
Usually from pop culture, largely also from science. And there's a few things I want to immediately sort of get you to show everyone who's watching this. And if you have any questions about it, we'll go item by item, ask your questions, and Alex and I will try and answer them as we go along. So can I ask for the first thing to be your Harry Potter envelope?
Yeah, okay, cool.
Okay.
So we'll go over here. This is the wall where I'm allowed to keep. So I live with 2 other flatmates, one of whom is a QI elf, and I'm allowed a shelf of stuff that's mine. Otherwise, I'll just put it everywhere. So this is a Harry Potter letter. It's one of the ones from the first film. I think it's one of the ones that came through the letterbox, like in the scene where there are loads and loads of letters flying around. So it's actually like just a flat piece of paper that's sort of folded into a letter shape, and it's got a little oil smudge on the back from like where it came through the machine that like shoots all the letters through the letterbox in the film.
Okay, cool. So this is Philosopher's Stone. It's a scene where Harry finally, the Dursleys have been hiding the letters so much that they come as a torrent through the letterbox.
On Sundays, yes.
Yeah, so hundreds have been made. And for ages, when we were talking about things that you could get that were Harry Potter, this is the thing that you were dying to get, and you finally tracked it down, right?
Yeah, I always wanted the letters because they never sold the letters. They never sold them as merchandise or anything. They made everything, but they never.
Sorry,
these,
Alex.
I really wanted one.
Quick question that's come up from Steinkind.
Yes.
Is it handwritten?
No, it's not. So this is one of the they made more of these ones, and so they're like printed. So you can see it's like a print of. They obviously like printed out lots of these on like parchment paper and then folded them over on the back so that they looked like letters, but they didn't have anything in. So they made like 7 or 8 full letters with like actual paper in and like a school list of school supplies and things. And then this is one of the like hundreds that like flew through the letterbox and down the chimney, and like so they're a bit like more proppy.
Yeah, good question from C-Batesy1. Why is there a full stop after Surrey? That should piss you off as someone who loves.
It's a very good point. I don't know. But they've got commas after all of the. It's like just quite old-fashioned, isn't it? That's a good point, though. Very good point.
Yeah, very, very good point.
But
And
they
so
don't teach grammar at
this is
Hogwarts, do
something.
they? They never got maths or science or English at Hogwarts. It's amazing that any of them can read or write properly, to be
You're
honest.
right. This is like when this is one of the Weasleys, the dad, Arthur, sort of getting excited by old technology. So he's
Yeah.
got 95% of it right, but the last thing is that's how you can tell it's from a wizard. That's the Mount Weasel, as they're
Yeah.
known, the sort of the giveaway. So you framed that yourself, didn't you?
Yeah. I have a second thing underneath. Is that oh shit? I accidentally
Well,
filtered
hang on,
something.
mate.
Okay,
Hang
hang on.
on. Hang on. Fuck on. We're still on item one.
Sorry.
Tell everyone where you got this from because it's very hard to track down. I'm trying to get one for my son, but I bought a Spike Milligan thing instead, and so I used up my credit with my family. So Andrew Harris is asking Sophie. Hey, Sophie Hagen's here. Wait, what's
Hey,
Sophie
Sophie.
say? Let's say it. Why? Not being funny, genuinely curious about why it's exciting. Because I love passionate people, but I don't get Harry Potter. Okay, why is it exciting?
Why is it exciting? It's exciting because I mean, like if you love Harry Potter, you know it. Like I grew up with it. You will have grown up with it as well, right, Dan? Like it's
Absolutely,
it's the ultimate book that like brought everyone together. It was one of the only books. Obviously, like we both love reading. There are loads of books and loads of fantasy series that we both love and both get totally passionate about. But Harry Potter was one of the ones where everyone at school was talking about it. And it was big news. I actually really vividly remember that they that when the films were announced and when they announced like the cast, our teachers made a notice board in our school and like posted up like newspaper cuttings of like updates of like who was being cast and like what was happening with the film and stuff, which is kind of amazing. Like that's crazy.
Yeah, that's cool.
Like
Yeah.
that like a franchise or like any kind of like fictional thing, whether it's a book or movie or whatever, would have such a big reach that they're giving you like they're acknowledging it in school and giving you updates on it and getting involved in it. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah. I think as well, if you're into something, if you're inspired by something, so for a lot of people, Harry Potter not only is just a great thing to read, but if you're interested in writing something great or coming up with something, you surrounding yourself by an object from the thing, particularly something that steps out from the medium that it was created for. I mean, maybe this is where you and I connect on this kind of thing of getting the paraphernalia of movies is you look at that, and every time I see that, I get inspired to go, I want to create something as amazing as that. I want to write something that can spread out globally and have kids going and say, it's just a little...
And become part of the vernacular and become a part of everyone's lives. It's like the same thing with Friends or whatever. It's that you've got like cultural references that you can use in everyday conversation with pretty much everyone. And it's like a way of people coming together. But that was all invented. It still blows my mind that everything like you go and like walk around in like one of the enormous theme parks in America, or you go to the studio tour, or you watch one of the films or whatever, or you go back and read the books. All of that came from one woman's brain. Like that's mad. I mean, obviously,
it's
I know,
nuts.
like that huge amounts of people worked on the films and kind of built everything on top of that universe. But the core universe is controlled by this one, in particular Harry Potter. That's what's so crazy is that it's still like run by this one woman and her imagination, which is just bonkers.
It's brilliant. What would be? Have you got any other Potter stuff in the house?
What do I have? I've got.
Think about that. And let's move on to your next item. But we'll come back to that.
Okay, but it's kind of in the same vein actually. It's the same reason why I got it. Actually, it's in the frame below this.
Yeah.
And it is this, which is a bit more niche actually, even for fans of Friends. But it's a prop from. Season 2, episode 8
right.
of Friends, and it's a box of Mocklet, and it's an episode in which Monica, she's out of a job, she's lost her job, and so she's like kind of like trying to find different like odd jobs to do, and she gets a job writing recipes for something called Mocklet, which is this like off-brand version of like chocolate that's obviously not made of chocolate and is kind of horrible and poisonous and has kind of like nasty qualities to it. And this is one of the 2 boxes that they filmed.
It's one of the 2. This is only one of 2.
Yeah. Well, there's 2 there's 2 on set, like in the episode. So she's given 2 boxes in the first scene, and then in the second scene, she's holding one of the boxes, and the other one's on the table. That's all I know. So yeah, I think there are only 2 boxes.
So can you take us into the tag again, that little strip underneath?
Oh yeah, I just made that.
Just a reminder, Alex has made all of this stuff. This is didn't come packaged. This is. I remember this arriving into the office, you showing it to everyone, Anna going insane, Anna from the Fish podcast, because she loves Friends as
It got misdelivered. It got delivered next door, and I thought it had been lost, and I was terrified.
Oh, wow. So we'll do. I just a couple of things I've seen. Let's just quickly address these before we move on. So someone's asked us which Harry Potter houses we've been sorted into. So I'm Slytherin.
I'm Ravenclaw.
You're Ravenclaw. Yeah.
I think pretty much everyone else in the office is a Slytherin. Weirdly,
yeah,
right?
yeah, we're pretty much Slytherin except Anne Miller, who's Gryffindor. Next question was. Where did you get this from? And I think maybe at the end of this, let's keep a list of all the things you're showing and do a quick roundup of where everyone can try and find certain things that if you want.
So the Harry Potter letter came from a prop company called, I think they're called the Monks.
We'll do it at the end of the show, mate.
Oh, cool. sorry. Fine.
Snap my fucking format in half.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I was worried.
No, go for it now. Go for it now. In case the person tunes out and they want to know.
Sure.
Like, Jesus, I got to sit.
Well, this one came from a company. I think it's called the Monster Company, and they are like the big prop and like memorabilia website in the UK. And they all come with like certificates of origin, and kind of they tell you who it was that stole it from set and sold it to them and stuff like that. And then this one came from Warner Brothers. Did an auction recently of quite a lot of memorabilia, and you could buy things like some of the list that Ross made about Rachel and was it Rachel and Julie, like where he lists all their good and bad points and stuff from the end of season 1, and you could buy boxes of smelly cat litter and things like that. So that was online as well. Yeah.
Amazing. Okay. There's something that I'd love for you to show everyone, which is a lot of people on here might be aware of these things, but you've become a big collector of them. There's this thing called the Mini Museum.
Oh yeah.
So give a quick, before you show it, a quick breakdown of what the Mini Museum is.
Okay. So the Mini Museum was a Kickstarter project. It was made by a guy called Hans Fex. Which is just an amazing name, I think. He sounds like a Bond villain. And actually kind of what he does is a bit Bond villain-esque, because he went around collecting samples of like objects that you are culturally huge and scientifically huge, and things that should be in museums. So things like asteroids and moon rocks, or a bit of the Berlin Wall, or a bit of the Titanic, or all sorts of things like that. And he buy them, a small chunk of this and a little bit of that and a vial of this, and he took tiny bits and put them in perspex, and then sold them on Kickstarter, so that you can buy a block of perspex with tiny little bits of all of these things in, and so it's literally like a miniature museum.
Yeah, they're amazing.
So
I went to why don't you grab it? I went to Berlin last year with Fish. We were doing a European tour, and James Harkin and I went to see the Berlin Wall, and there was a vendor outside who sold bits of Berlin Wall. So I bought this ginormous chunk for Wilf, my son, to have on his shelf. And so we've got this awesome bit of Berlin Wall. It has been pointed out since that there's a lot of fraud wall.
Because I think it's really illegal to do that now, isn't it? So they can't.
Yeah,
legit.
What I'm comforted by the fact that it's definitely a bit of a Berlin Wall, unless they imported wall, which would be an odd thing to do. So it's still legit a Berlin Wall. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about this mini museum. Can you hold it closer? Can we go?
Yeah. I'm going to zoom in. So I'm sort of giving a sense of size that I have by the hands, but that's like, it's about this big. And so if you go in, you can see you've got quite a lot of a lot of rocks and asteroids.
I mean, really that's a biggie. That first one is a biggie.
It's a good one to open with, right? Top left.
4.5 billion years old.
So
that's sitting in your house.
These come with a little book that kind of explain everything in more detail. Obviously.
Yeah. So let's go along the top line. Let's just do a quick sweep. Okay. So we've got all this matter. We've got lunar rock from the moon, Martian rock from Mars. A word I can't pronounce. Meteorite. And alleged killer meteorites. So there's only been a couple of people ever on our planet who reported to have been killed by a meteorite, one of which is a cow. And so
I don't think he reported it himself.
No, and arguably neither did the other dead people. No. But that we know of. So let's just stick on that top line a second.
Yeah.
Do you know, I read a really cool thing about a Mars rock recently. We've sent a Mars rock back to Mars. How crazy is that? So
That seems like a waste of effort.
yeah. But so this is millions of years ago, a meteorite hit Mars, and it had a huge impact, and it exploded rock out of the atmosphere into space. One of those bits of rocks traveled for thousands of years or whatever it was, circling around, eventually crashing onto Earth, where we found it and went, "This is a Mars rock. It's one of the rare Mars rocks that we have." We then chipped off a bit, and one of the Mars missions that went back to the planet has a bit of this rock now on it, and it's going to crash back into Mars in the next few years. So it's done a round trip. It's probably the only rock in the universe
amazing.
that has done a round trip.
Most traveled rock, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So talk us through either the top line, or if you want to go to the second line. Maybe the second line, because it's all rocks at the top. It's a pretty boring opening line, actually. Conversation-wise.
There are 5 of these as well. So
yeah, look at that! Oh my god. Okay, cool. All right.
Okay, so in fact, in the first one, some of them were a bit clickbaity, the titles, because they didn't really tell you what they are, and you have to go and read the book. But this is a fossil that's thought to be, like, I think a fossil of one of the earliest forms of like primordial life or something. I can't remember. I'd have to check the book, but it's like super old, like little tiny bit fossil.
Dinosaur egg.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one. That's a Jurassic Park type.
I mean, how beautiful is that?
In fact, that's
sorry,
the
I
Jurassic
skipped
Park
over
one down there.
Oh yeah, that's probably. Look at that one, palm tree from Antarctica. Like that's amazing. A time when Antarctica had palm trees.
It's incredible, yeah.
It's extraordinary. This thing. So you've got a bunch of these. Where did you get them? And can everyone hear?
Yeah, I don't know how available they are now because they're all like slightly limited editions, but there's lots of variations available. So they're called Mini Museum, and if you Google them, you can find them. And there are actually 5 of them now. So I'll just show you the rest. So I ended up, because I bought the first one, I then had to complete the set. So I've got all 5, and in fact, this one is like just arrived a couple of days ago. It's the latest one. It's all dinosaurs. It's really cool.
Oh, cool.
I haven't read the book yet on it. So you can buy them online. I think they also do like miniature versions of these, which have like 8 or 9 specimens in, so you don't have to buy the full ones. This is the biggest version of like every year that they did, I think.
Yeah, right.
But the reason I really bought this first one, I do remember when I bought it, was it was this bit. It was this thing here, which is a piece of foil from the Apollo 11 command module.
Wow, yeah.
Which is, that's a piece of foil that's actually been to the moon. In fact, it's sitting, I've just realized where I put it, it's sitting right next to my Lego model of the lunar lander. So
very cool.
There's all the rest of the foil there, the gold stuff.
Yeah, nice. Hey, just very quickly, so someone called Kiki Wickstrom has just joined, saying, just joined, what are you guys showing? So just for anyone who has joined a bit late, this is a quick little thing called Show Us Your Shit, where interesting people who've collected interesting stuff are showing us what's in their house just while they're in isolation. And what we're currently looking at is Alex's set of mini museums, which you can get online. Hey, Alex, there's a question everyone's asking. You can be totally British about this and not answer, but Harry Potter, the Mocklet, and the mini museums, what ballpark figure are you paying for this kind of stuff?
They're all like between a couple and a few £100s each, I think.
Yeah. So the letter, I remember the letter was like 200 quid.
Yeah,
the
letter was 200. Yeah. Like Mockler was kind of a bit like probably quite a bit more than that actually. And then the mini museums are, I think they're under £200 each. I think, but again, it depends whether you buy them like if out of Kickstarter, like from the original seller, or you buy them on eBay, I guess, if you get hold of them and buy them in a set and stuff like that. So yeah. So it's all, this is the reason why I'm never going to have a house. Because I keep buying shit like this instead.
Yeah.
Oh, my sister just asked, my sister just asked, are these meteorites from a lunar expedition, or are they excavated on Earth? And
I thought you were going to say, did your sister ask, who's being left this shit in the will?
Yeah. That's a great question, Victoria. It's, I think these all are meteorites that landed on Earth, and they are from Mars and the Moon, respectively. I think that's almost definitely the case, because like certainly you wouldn't be allowed. It's actually illegal to sell or distribute moon rocks, for example, and it wouldn't have been possible to get hold of any of those samples. So they definitely would have been meteorites that hit Earth, but I think this is where they came from. Yeah. Sorry, what were you going to say, Dan?
No, actually, I was just going to say, so you and I have an obsession with the Apollo moon landings. That's a fairly big thing. So you've got some nice juicy things that are
I've
from
got
the
quite a lot
missions
here.
themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I was gonna say, just for everyone listening. So Alex and I, we went down to a place in England, a beautiful mystical place called Pontefract, which I'd never been to before, and Alex hadn't either. And we both we got a hotel room, and we were like camping out in this hotel room because the next day we were going to go see Jim Lovell of Apollo 13 talk, and just talk about the mission of Apollo 13. Now, Apollo 13 for me is the greatest adventure of any kind that's ever happened. To me, it's there's nothing that tops it. A tin can out in space loses power, no way getting home, and a group of people on Earth have to work out on limited resources how to get them back. And spoiler, managed to, but what an extraordinary story. And I watch Apollo 13. If you've not seen the movie, or if you had years ago, give it a watch again. It's just so beautiful. The story is so emotional.
Have you heard the story? Have you heard the story about the test audiences for Apollo 13 that were shown it, and they said we loved it, but the ending was really disappointing. We think they should have died.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing. Anyway,
so good. But no, so we went down to Pontefract, Alex and I, and we got to meet Jim Lovell. And we went technically up to Pontefract. I always say down when I'm talking about going anywhere. Everywhere for me is down. Very good point. Very sorry. But so we went to Pontefract and we got to meet Jim. But the best thing about it was before his talk, you could have a photo with him. And it costs like 40 quid a photo or something.
It was
and
20 quid. It was 20 quid a photo.
Do you have the photo on you by any chance?
I don't. I was just wondering whether I had. I think it's in the office.
Must be at work. I've got it on my Instagram feed. If anyone wants to see it, you can go down the Instagram
But you say
feed.
The photo. We went around multiple times. We went
well,
around
this was the thing. We had a photo each, and the queue was kind of manageable. It was quite short, and we got to shake his hand. So we kind of thought, well, why not go again? And then we worked out that we could both go again the next time if we went together, because it would cost us. So we started sort of riding Jim Lovell like a roller coaster. we just kept reappearing.
And we did different poses in every photo.
Yeah.
And it was in front of a green screen, and then in the photo they put the Saturn rocket in the background, like on the launch pad, so it looked like that you just bought a rocket off him.
Yeah,
you were shaking hands
in
front
of him,
and like pointing at this rocket. Yeah,
yeah, we've just done a great deal on selling a rocket ship. But oh man, yeah, Jamie, absolute Jim groupies. We're flat out Jim groupies.
So much fun.
But and we've been quite lucky just through the kind of jobs that we do. So a radio show that I used to produce was called Museum of Curiosity, and we had Buzz Aldrin as a guest on that, which was amazing. So
Incredible.
we got to hang out with Buzz, and
I have a picture of him of me, because we went for a drink afterwards in that like hotel. It was quite high up and it had those like big windows, and I have a picture with Buzz Aldrin, and then in the background you can see the moon, and I was like shoving him because Anne was taking the photo, or maybe Sarah was taking the photo, and I was just like trying to like gently edge him so I could get the moon in shot as well, because I really wanted a photo with all three of us in.
That is so good. You've got him and the moon. That's amazing. Yeah, he was an extraordinary character. He's got a cool thing that I'd love to see one day, which is when they were on the moon, they so this is a kind of like, you know, one day this will go to auction and someone will have it in their house. It's just a great relic totemy thing, which is when they were on the moon, as they were about to take off, they came back into the lander, and I think there was a situation where Neil and his backpack knocked off the switch. Literally the switch that they would have to push down to ignite off the moon. And so it snapped off. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, so this was a big problem, because how do you get off the moon if you don't have the switch to do it? And Buzz
It's like snapping your key in the ignition.
Exactly, yeah. And so Buzz Aldrin had a pen on him, and he shoved the pen inside, and he flicked the switch, and it managed to work. So the only reason they got off the moon was Buzz improvised with this pen, this ballpoint pen, and he still has that pen. He keeps it with him, either with him at all times or on his desk. And yes, we mentioned this in the last Fish episode, actually, weirdly. Yeah, it's
an incredible story. It's amazing.
Yeah. And he was amazing. He has the most, if you ever meet Buzz, the most solid head I've ever seen. Like, it's a really solid.
I mean, he looks like Buzz Lightyear. Like
he does.
Like, in fact, he's got that very big, thick set.
It's like thick skin. It's like a thick plastic. It looks like a Lego head's just been shoved on him. And he also, when you talk to him, there seems to be a weird 3-second delay before he hears your question and comes up with the answer. So like even his face doesn't register what you've said until about 3 seconds after.
Do you think the moon landings were just in real time, and then all of the communication was just him? And maybe that's why the helmets are so big as well, because they just had to fit over his head. And
his head was
like, it's so roomy in here.
Yeah, exactly. And I always think that I totally agree with that. I think it must be there was no delay. They were just waiting for Buzz to like interpret the question. The problem is that you've got Buzz, who we know punched someone in the face when he was already an old man for asking a ridiculous question. And you know, every question you asked him, when you were met with that silence, you thought, oh shit, am I about to be punched in the face? Yeah. I did ask him a question, which was, there was a story, which it turns out is not true. He told me himself, which is there's a, okay, so there was a worry that when they went to the moon, that they might be captured by aliens. Now, I say there was a worry. I realized this wasn't a NASA concern.
Bear in mind that Dan was the producer of the show as well, so there's like quite a senior figure in production coming up and asking these questions about were you worried about being abducted by aliens?
And I genuinely asked him this question. There was a thing, and I think it was a joke. The idea of it was a joke, was that there was a dollar bill note and they ripped it in half. And so the idea was, in case they got cloned by an alien and turned into a clone like Buzz Aldrin, he would have to present the one half of the dollar note and they would have the other. So they would put it together and go, oh, you're the real guy because you have one half and we have the other half. Now, someone very cleverly pointed out that if they were capable of cloning an entire Cuban,
they just wouldn't bother to check the pockets.
Yeah, exactly. But I asked him that and he said it was not true. And he didn't talk to me for the rest of the night. Yeah, total scoop.
He had such like a presence though. I mean, he probably, I don't know if he did or whether it's just that thing that you infer from people when like they're so important to you and you're so aware of like who they are. But because he was so American and like had this proper kind of like this, you know, he had like, there was like an energy about him, I think, that like you kind of probably comes from like a lifetime of like, you know, living with the fact that you are one of the first men on the moon. But you can kind of see, because the Apollo missions and the space race was such an exercise in PR as well as a scientific endeavor, it's really amazing to meet him and like kind of get that sense still that like there's a kind of like you were taken back to the 1960s and kind of, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
It was amazing. We also met Helen Sharman as well.
Helen Sharman.
She was amazing. She's the first Brit in space, and one of the first women in space, and she was great because I remember the whole time of the show she kept, because everyone on the show was chatting about what they did in their lives and when, and she kept referring, I went to you know, India. Was that before I went to space or after I went to space? It's just amazing because she basically won a contest and was one of the first civilians to go into space. I forget, she's broken so many records, I've forgotten which first
she worked in a chocolate factory, didn't she, before? Yeah, she would love your mocklet. That would be...
She worked for Mars. Yeah, she worked for
Mars, so just a quick reminder to everyone who's may have tuned in very late. Welcome to this new show. It's called Show Us Your Shit. We're talking to Alex Bell, one of the QILs. He is showing us his shit. We've seen some awesome shit so far. So we've seen his Harry Potter letter, the one that went through the letterbox as the Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone was trying to get him into Hogwarts when there's that avalanche of letters going through. He's shown us the Mocklet Bar, which is this. It's from Friends, an episode in Friends that Monica had. He's showing us his mini museums, which are these tiny fragments of little bits of the Titanic and the Berlin Wall and Mars rock and dinosaur eggs and so on. Egyptian mummy wrap and Dracula, Vlad III's castle, Transylvanian Alps, London Bridge. I mean, this is just, these mini museums are phenomenal.
Coal from the Titanic is one of the ones I love.
Coal from the Titanic. Yeah. Oh, man, it's so sexy, great. These mini museums. They're awesome. Human brain.
On and on. Maybe we should do the others another time because there's too many.
There's too many. But so let's quickly, so while we were just having that Buzz Aldrin chat, I noticed in the background another exciting thing. Oh, this is cool. You won this in an auction, didn't you? Yeah.
I bought this from like the Buzz Aldrin website, which he peddles back. There's a signed photo of Buzz Aldrin.
So behind you, as
that's
we
all
were
it
talking,
is. There's nothing to it.
There was a London Underground sign. Go to the London Underground sign. This is very cool. Tell everyone about the story.
I love this. So this was, I bought this a few years ago and I was trying to buy something off a guy on eBay. I can't remember what it was I was trying to buy. Probably some other nonsense piece of rubbish that I don't need. And something went wrong and it fell through, and he kind of messed me around quite a bit. And so he said, "Oh, by the way, I have like all of this other stuff if you're interested." And he had this sign. He's like, "Oh yeah, I can like give you I can give you the sign for like quite a reasonable price or something. Oh, and I'll put lights in, I'll clean it up and stuff." So I sort of said yes, and then I got it, and I was just like, oh, it's actually amazing, and I love it. And yeah, it's from like some like company that makes a sign making company like that TFL have hired to fix their signs. And so this is from Hyde Park Corner Station, I think, originally. And yeah, I just use it as a bookcase now. And that's
but this is, I mean, this is hey, Raymond, how you doing? But this is a genuine London Underground sign.
Yeah. It's pretty big as well. Like it's
it's massive.
I mean, that's up to my waist. That's a terrible way of measuring something. But like, I use it to keep books in now, so you can see like I'll put all my books in there.
But this is, I mean, this is so, Sophie Hagen asking earlier about like, tell me why this is exciting and so on. And this is, London is just such a place that constantly is rooted in history, and every bit of it is history. There's no time in London where it's not going to be talked about. And to have something as iconic as that, like we take it for granted, the branding and so on of a time, but grandchildren are going to be looking at that.
Do you know what happened the other day? Weirdly, my flatmate's boyfriend was around, and I was sort of like we were chatting, and then we were just talking about some of this stuff, and I was showing off, and like, oh, look, this pretty cool sign that I've got. And he went, oh yeah, my great uncle's Frank Pick. And like, so his great uncle or whatever was Frank Pick, the designer of the roundel.
No way.
So random, right? And that's my family's boyfriend, just like completely out of the blue. Crazy.
That is
such
awesome.
a weird coincidence. Yeah.
That's amazing.
And then I asked him about it, and he was like, I don't really know much about it because we really only talk about the family knitting business.
Well, that's like when I was talking to, again, just to throw back to you and I meeting Buzz Aldrin, when I was talking to Buzz Aldrin about Neil Armstrong's funeral, because Neil Armstrong had just died about 3 months before. So it was amazing that we had Buzz on the show at all, because we just thought there's no way that he'll come on. He happened to be in London for a couple of days, and he said he'd come on. And he was saying it was really weird about the funeral of Neil Armstrong because the Apollo moon landings just didn't get a look in. When the eulogies were happening, just no one seemed to mention it. It was occasionally mentioned in passing, but not really. What they really spoke about was his golf game, because he just loved golf.
Yeah, and I suppose that's how all of his friends are going to connect with him. Like, it's basically a business trip going to the moon. Like, that's not really something you can be like, oh, he was so funny all the way there and back. Like Like you would have got to know him from playing golf and stuff, I guess.
Yeah. So Liba Grante Granat is asking, which episode was this? I don't know if you're asking for Fish or Museum of Curiosity. If it's Museum of Curiosity, this was years ago. The other guests on it were Mark Abrams of Ig Nobel Prizes. If you don't know the Ig Nobel Prizes, that's another thing you must check out. It's a annual science prize that awards people, scientists who work out the weirdest things, like why if you look at a building through your legs upside down, it looks bigger or smaller than if you look normally up, or there's a big mystery that we currently don't know in science of, when you're in the shower and a shower curtain billows in towards you, we don't know why that happens. And they awarded a prize to a man who has united two opposing theories that suggest why it happens, but they are not compatible with each other. It's kind of like
such a crazy cosmic mystery.
Yeah.
It feels like something Douglas Adams would come up with.
Yeah, exactly. We have no idea why shower curtains billow in towards us. We got theories, but the main theories are not compatible with each other. So Mark Abrams was on. He was awesome. Sarah Pascoe was on, who's just incredible. And she made a really good point about being on a panel with Buzz Aldrin, which is it kind of was like being on a panel with a Greek mythology god. It was just like, how are we sitting with a guy who stood on the moon? This is amazing.
And then you've got to come to your third of the show and you'll be like, I don't, let's stay on Buzz.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the co-host of the show at the time was Jimmy Carr, and
it was series 5 episode 6.
Series 5 episode 6. Nice one. Good classic QIing on the spot. But Jimmy said a thing during the show, which we thought, oh shit, this could be a moment where Buzz Aldrin walks off, where John Lloyd, sort of, who was the host of the show, sort of was bigging up, he's been to the moon, blah, blah, blah. But let me talk to you about your appearance on Dancing with the Stars, which was on in America. He was a guest on it. And he was, John said, "Where did you come? When were you eliminated?" So one person was eliminated before him. So he said, "Well, I wasn't the first to be eliminated." Uh, and Jimmy said, "Oh, that must have sucked." I mean, but it's not the first time you've been second to something major. And there was honestly this pause where he thought, "Oh, he's going to punch him in the head." Yeah. It was this
just
long,
like one joke after so many years, just one
yeah,
joke too many. Yeah,
exactly. But then he cracked a smile, and after the delay, which was just a natural delay, as I spoke about earlier. Okay, let's move on to another show us your shit item. I saw something earlier next to the Lego, which is something I gave you, actually.
Oh, yeah, I was about to say, actually, you can tell us about this, can't you?
Not really. I kind of bought it for you without fully knowing what it was. I was kind of hoping that you could. Hey, from New Zealand. Well done for joining. Jerry Springer was born at Highgate Station. Very, very true. I think one of only 3 or 4 people who've been born in the London Underground. Jerry Springer, obviously the American mayor, or ex-mayor.
Somebody was
talk show host. Some people know him as a talk show host as well. Yeah. So Alex, give us this.
Oh, so you brought this back for me from your European tour as a souvenir, because I think it's come along, and I'm really jealous. So you went and visited the Large Hadron Collider.
Yeah, that's right.
And you can. They apparently they're just selling it off in the gift shop, which is quite surprising. But this is a data tape, so it's like a digital storage thing. So obviously, I guess they must have had thousands and thousands of these all plugged into like a massive kind of array, 1 terabyte's worth. Oh, hang on a sec. Sorry, I need to plug in battery. Yeah, this is. Oh no, I can't. This is a terabyte's worth of data. So this it says on it. This is 30 minutes worth of data from firing the LHC. So there may even be a Higgs boson event recorded on here, potentially. I bet not. I bet they kept all the ones that have the Higgs boson events on, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah. It was really cool. CERN was amazing. If anyone gets a chance to go to Geneva and see CERN, it's one of those places where so much happened in it outside of just the Higgs boson finding. And you can go into the room where they announced it, and we did a really fun thing on Fish at one point, which was the outrage of people as the announcement was made for the finding of the Higgs boson, because the PowerPoint that was showing it delivered the information in Comic Sans font. And Brian Cox was at the time tweeting, he was at CERN kind of just saying, "This is amazing, this is all going on." And all he was getting was a barrage of how much people fucking hated Comic Sans as it was going on. And absolutely,
that's the only record we're going to have of that. No one's going to know any details in our presentation. There's just a load about Comic Sans.
But there was one amazing tweet, which was from a guy who wrote, "Oh, what's with the Comic Sans shit?" Which turned out to have come from the inventor of the font, Comic Sans. Even the Comic Sans inventor was like, "What the fuck are they doing? This is a big moment." So you can go to that room where Comic Sans made an appearance, where the Higgs boson was announced, and then also. And they tell you this in passing as you're walking along a corridor. They're like, "By the way, this corridor right here, which is an empty space," they said, "this is the spot where Tim Berners-Lee created the World Wide Web. This is right here." And it was basically, they had the idea for it and they were trying to experiment with it, but no one would give up a room because they just didn't think it was interesting enough. So they set up a trestle table out in the middle of the hall. This is like a hall that's on the way to the canteen and so on. And you just see this empty space where they would have had 2 trestle tables and some computers. And Tim Berners-Lee and co were just creating. Yeah. So they have a little plaque on the wall, actually, where you can see it was on this spot that the World Wide Web was invented. So it's just going to CERN is a phenomenal thing outside of the Large Hadron Collider, which is a really beautiful thing. Alex, everyone's asking about the jar of pasta. What's going on?
Well, I mean, I have quite a lot of pasta.
Oh my God! Wow. Okay. All right. Why are we talking CERN? So anyone who's just joining, just as a reminder, welcome to Show Us Your Shit. This is a show where we talk to interesting people about all the interesting stuff they've collected. And as we're all at home right now, why not take this time just to give us a quick show of all your shit? So Alex Bell, QI one of my best friends, godfather to my son, has been collecting shit for years, and he has a lot of pasta. So let's get to that.
Yeah, no, look, what people want to, I guess, pastas are now a valuable commodity. This is worth more than all of this stuff put together now. It's great. No, I just have a lot of pasta. I do have, what else have I got? I've got
No. Hang the hell on. What?
we just got lots of different jars of pasta. I mean, that's just
I get that. Why is it sitting next to the CERN data that might have the Higgs boson next to Buzz Aldrin?
The kitchen is here, so I had to compromise. Like, I live with two normal people. You have to remember, well, one QIL and one normal person. So like, some of my stuff has to be normal, and this is the compromise, is that we get half a shelf of nice stuff and half a shelf of Lego and space nonsense and things.
Okay. Which is the best pasta? Emma Govan wants to know.
I don't know.
I think she's asking the question everyone wants to know.
I don't know. We have this quite good chart of all the different types of pastas, which is Jack's, which is quite cool. Anyway.
Okay.
I do have, what else have I got that's quite interesting? I do have this, which I got from the National Museum of Computing. I can't remember, were you here when I went to this? No, hang on a second.
No, I wasn't.
So I got this, I went to go visit the Bletchley Park and then the National Museum of Computing, which is sort of next door. So I'm trying to find a reflecty angle. There we go.
No, I can see. Yeah.
They have a replica of the Colossus, the code breaking machine that was developed by Alan Turing, and they ran off some customized like teleprinter code, which is like the paper computer program, the sort of punch system that those computers ran off back in the day, to say that's quite interesting, which is for the new title sequence of QI. But
cool.
Even though that's just a little replica, I really like that because it's such an amazing the whole like story. The National Museum of Computing is such an underrated museum as well. If you ever go, I feel like, because it's like right next to Bletchley Park. Oh, sorry. Am I disappearing? I'm running out.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, it was just quick.
It's like literally, I think it might be getting some funding now, but it's been in like basically a series of porta cabins for years. And you go in and they have the most incredible set of like, it's like a massive shed full of computers. Now it's all quite nicely laid out, but it's very like kind of, low budget. And they have these incredible, huge, sort of massive early digital computers and things, and things like the original kind of storage devices that are like, they look like CD-ROMs, but they're 1.5 meters in diameter and huge, and kind of it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Ollie Granger. Hey Ollie, how you doing? Really good friend of Fish. She's asking, is that Alan Turing that threw all of his teacups into a lake one time and buried a load of silver? Yeah. It is indeed. Really cool story about the about Alan Turing and his silver. So if anyone doesn't know it, obviously Turing, famous for everything that he did with the Enigma and during World War II for code cracking, and famously was attacked by the government basically for his sexuality, leading to a castration chemically and then a suicide. We're not fully sure the story of his death, but he was an extraordinary character. So everyone probably knows that already. This is the really cool story, is that he was so worried at the beginning of the war that he was going to lose all of his valuables that he took everything that was of worth and he converted it into silver bars specifically. And he went out into a field sort of near where he lived, and he dug a massive hole and he buried the silver into it, and then he put the dirt back in, as you do if you're hiding something in a hole you dug. And sorry,
you're really bringing it to life.
Yeah, well, I just, like, I don't want you to think he just left it in an open hole. So then he disappeared back home and he made a code of where he found it. So just to remind him in the landscape, he wrote down the details and then he made a code of those details. The war happens. Oh, no. And then what happens is he makes a code of that code because he just wants to double encrypt it in case someone in his code building, I mean, it's the worst place to hide a code really when you're working in the ultimate code building. He makes a double code of it. So then after the war, he goes back and the landscape has changed just because the nature of what happened in the war, it just was completely different to where he buried it. So he was like, thank God I've got the code. And then he tried to do the encryption to decipher the code, and he couldn't do it. And he never found his silver. So somewhere in the English countryside is the lost silver, the hoard of silver of Alan Turing, still waiting to be found.
It's like the nerdiest pirate adventure like ever.
Yeah,
waiting to happen.
Yeah, I love that Jamie is still is still involved in this. This is Jamie Morton, everyone, who's making a few comments, who is the host of My Dad Wrote a Porno, who's a really close friend of Alex and mine. Jamie, if are you up for doing one of these another night? You must have some cool shit. Leave us your comments, Jamie.
Yeah, we'll just sit here in silence and wait for you to reply.
Yeah. Alex, have you got more stuff? I don't know how long these things should go on. Maybe we should wrap up soon. It feels like
I have one more thingy of stuff. This is more random stuff actually. In fact, I have this is in fact explicit. Sorry.
Hey, this is okay. Cool.
I actually have a signed Rocky Flintstone My Dad Wrote a Porno business card from when I met Rocky.
Yes.
Which is pretty awesome.
Oh, cool.
Cool. This is basically my little cabinet of random stuff that I don't know what to do with. So it's mainly stuff that I've ended up with through QI. So this is a bit of sheepskin parchment, like vellum, that's made by a company called William Cowley, who are the last manufacturers in the UK of like vellum, which is like really thick parchment made from animal skin. And it's what, I don't think they use it anymore, but it's what for a very, very long time and up until very recently, all of the UK laws, charters were written on in Parliament. And you can go up to the Victoria Archives. They are in the Victoria Archives. And I went up a while ago with Jack and saw them. They're all rolled up and rolled. It's an absolutely incredible place. And then I've also got some Aerogel, which is this like super, it's just a really light material. Like if you pick it up, it's just really light. It's amazing.
What's it used for?
It's a lot. So it's a super insulator. So like it's really good at holding in heat and not letting heat transfer through it. So it's used in NASA use it a lot in their spacecraft as a thermal insulator. And things like that. So it has lots of properties. That's because it's so light, but also such a good insulator.
Wow.
But I think it's quite difficult to make. It was supposed to be a circle when I put it in. I accidentally dropped it and smashed it, which is annoying.
That's very cool. Hey, just a quick pause, Alex. Just seeing a comment come up. So someone, so C Bates, Batesy1, I once got to hold Anne Boleyn's prayer book. That was very cool. That is cool. That is so cool. If anyone has any kind of similar small moments of interestingness that they've done, like I find I love being able to put my hands on something of history. I don't know why, it just connects you as a human to all of humanity for some reason. When you're able to go, that was a real person. Anne Boleyn was real. Look, I'm holding her book. I find those
Dan
amazing.
Is also the reason that a lot of the "Please do not touch" signs are around a museum as well.
Yes, yeah. Well, okay. So one thing that I got to touch, and I was so excited about, was we were at the Wellcome Institute, and we had a buddy called Ross who works at the Wellcome Institute, and he said, "Do you want to tour behind the scenes?" This, by the way, is a few people are saying on the questions, like, what's it like to work at QI? Is it fun? This is one of the most extraordinary perks of being someone involved with QI, is that a lot of people who are as nerdy and dorky as you love to invite you and show you things, assuming you're going to say no, in which, most people probably would say no, but for us is heaven. And probably for a lot of you, if you've tuned in now, is similar. You would jump at the opportunity to do things like go behind the scenes at a museum and so on. And the Wellcome Institute. Or
there's somewhere really nerdy that you want to go and you can't get into, so you just have to find someone who's a fan of QI who works there who'll let you in.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, sorry, I'm just totally going to distract. Someone's saying, can you say hello to my friend Joshua Walsh, who introduced me to the podcast and changed my life? Yeah, of course. Hey, Josh, is he Josh? Joshua? Thanks for changing Alyssa's life. Anyway, so we went behind the scenes at the Wellcome Institute, and they have there the diaries, which we got to hold, of the naturalist on the Beagle. So the Beagle that Darwin was on. Now, here's the interesting thing. Darwin was not the naturalist on the Beagle. He was brought on for different reasons. He was meant to just, I genuinely don't remember what he was brought on for. And he was almost not let on because he had the wrong shaped nose. That was a thing back then, where the captain looked at his nose and went, not letting that guy on, because they believed that your nose could say the fate of your luck and so on. I've got that slightly wrong as well. But they had this diary, and Ross had read through it and transcribed it, and we were floating through this diary, and it's so tiny writing, that just like holding Anne Boleyn's prayer book. This thing was on the Beagle. This was the trip that altered science. I mean, this is the moment. If you had a time machine, this is one of the spots you would go to. And this naturalist who was on the boat was a very different kind of scientist to Darwin. In fact, he was not a scientist. He was someone who believed that God was running everything and that anything that happened was not to do with evolution. He wouldn't have spotted what Darwin spotted.
Imagine having Darwin looking over your shoulder while you're trying to make your notes.
Well, here's the thing that Ross told us, and these diaries have not been published. He said basically the diary is basically a massive bitch session about this Darwin guy who the captain's really in love with, who's got all these insane ideas about, you know, tortoises and finches that he's seeing and how they evolved and stuff. And it's just full of these lines going, this fucking Darwin dick.
Darwin was on board because he was the geologist as well. So
geologist, yes.
Everyone was kind of like going outside of their purview in that ship, trying to do everyone else's job.
Yeah, exactly. Also, one other thing he showed us, and this was also mind-blowing, was they have all the research papers that were donated from James Watson. The two DNA guys are James Watson and
Francis Crick.
Crick and Watson. So who's still alive? Crick's still alive, right? Or is it Watson?
I don't think they're... hang on a second.
One of them is still alive. The one who died... Anyone who's following us, can you remember who it is?
I think it's Watson who's still alive.
Okay, so Crick, who passed away, they had all his research papers that were donated by his wife, his widow, and they were going through them all and logging them and photographing them, and then they noticed on the back of one of the sheets was this little tiny sort of draft drawing of a double helix shape, and they looked at the date on the bit of the paper, and they were like, this is incredibly early. This is way before they were announcing what it was. And so they got in touch with his widow and said, we found this bit of paper. Is there any chance that this might be one of the first drawings or so on of the double helix? And they said, his widow said, no, I remember, that's the very first time he ever drew. And he showed me, and he went, I've discovered something amazing, and it looks like this. So they had, by accident, the first ever drawing of the DNA, the double helix. It was just so cool. We got to see it in front of us at these.
Why didn't you mention it before?
Yeah, like, mate, what's going on? She didn't realize she'd given it over to them. You know, it was a scrap of paper. It was a meaningless thing at the time.
Amazing.
Anyway, a few people are asking. I know this is distracting from the Show Us Your Shit show, which is the new format. It's going to be returning nightly. If I could think of anyone else to do it. But everyone is asking what it is like to be a QI elf. We've got someone genuinely on the front line. Just to give you a bit of background about Alex as well. When you watch the titles on QI, at least for the last few series since Sandy Toksvig's taken over, that's Alex. He's created those titles. He sourced there's so many little tiny in-jokes in there that he's sort of slipped in along the way. He's put in a picture. If you see the baby that comes up on there, that's my son, Wilf. Eating a biscuit, and Alex did it without going with me or my wife Fenella to check with us about this.
I didn't get.
No, you didn't show me the photo. You said, "Can I use a picture of Wilf?" And I said, "Absolutely." And it's this horrible. He's got this big biscuit sticking out of him. He's like,
I definitely showed it to you. I just.
Oh man, well, Fenella didn't see it, and my goodness. And I was like, the problem is, if you say no to this now, it's so far down the line. It's basically going out. Alex will be fired. So we just need to just.
I think it's a really nice picture though. It's a funny picture. And also I put in a nice picture for the Christmas titles because they hadn't been done by that point. So
that was really sweet. The Christmas titles is cute as hell.
But there's also, we're using, because we came up with a list of things to put in, like, oh, we should do like really big things like pictures of space and really tiny things like a thumbprint and stuff like that. And then there was no money to clear any of the images. So we had to make them all ourselves or get them from free places. And so all of the things like, there's a picture of like a retinal pattern and there's a fingerprint and all of that is just mine because I was like, well, I can clear it and I won't charge any money for it. But I've realized that all of my genetic data is like stored inside. It's broadcast about 8 times a day on Dave.
That's amazing. Do you have one last thing to show us on Show Us Your Shit?
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, hang on a second. We can have a look.
So also, I'm going to ask Alex to design a logo for Show Us Your Shit.
Oh, yes, that's a good idea. I like how the show is being formatted as it's broadcast, and you were just like, get on Instagram Live and I'll do a show.
I know, this was honestly, it was half an hour ago I messaged Alex, or like half an hour before we started. I was in bed laying next to my son and wife, both who were asleep. And I went, "Hey man, are you free in 15 minutes to do an
That's how
Instagram
Graham
thing?"
Norton started. I remember vividly.
Really, he 15 minutes before they launched it on BBC
Yeah,
Two.
yeah, 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 yeah. He's
Yeah,
just
they
like, get
just
me a
kept an
studio.
open
Yeah,
slot for
yeah, yeah,
someone
yeah,
who.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool. All right. Well,
Okay,
that's exciting. Maybe this will grow into that. So this is.
this is the last thing I want to show you, and it's mainly because it's not really interesting in itself. It's just that so something I picked up. I went to Kew Gardens, and I just this was just like lying dead underneath the plant, so I just picked it up, and it's like a little leaf from the world's oldest pot plant. And so in
Oh
Kew Gardens,
wow.
they've got the world's oldest pot plant. Can you see that picture? That's so
Yeah, yeah.
that's a picture of it in the 70s being repotted because it's a huge thing. It's basically a little tree. It's if you go and see it, it's actually quite hard to find because the massive Victorian greenhouse that it's now in um, is very huge. It's huge and overcrowded, and really, it's like a jungle. It's just full of plants. It's the same building I think that's in this photo, but it's like so much more full of plants than it is in that photo.
Right.
And it's right in the corner, and it just has a little plaque that says "World's Oldest Pot Plant," it is from 1775, and there's a big timeline next to it where you can see all the things that it survived, all the wars and everything like
Oh,
that, and
that's
where they
so cool.
it's really amazing. It's the kind of thing where I want to see a sort of time-lapse film from the point of view of the plant, of all the things it's seen over the hundreds of years. And yeah, so and obviously it sheds these leaves, so I thought it would be all right if I took one of the leaves, seeing as it was lying dead on the ground anyway. It's sitting in, it's technically a massive big sort of crate. And it's absolutely huge, and it's, as you can see, it's kind of grown over to one side really quite like dramatically. So it's got a couple of like sort of like wooden kind of supports and things like that as well. But it's such an amazing like random thing that we
Yeah.
know that's the world's oldest pot plant. Like everyone has
So
pot
sorry,
plants.
how old are we talking?
1775. So like
1775.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's before Hamilton.
Yeah. What before Lin Manuel Miranda wrote Hamilton? Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
that's before Lin-Manuel
Yeah,
even
yeah,
had
yeah.
the idea, let alone the
It's
production.
really really long time ago.
Yeah, well, I know when Jamie's still, I think, listening to us. Jamie, give me the song 1770. Is it before that? He'll know the lyrics inside out. Um, yeah, that's 1775. Cool. 1776 is when Jamie's just
Potentially.
messaged.
So this is a
So
year older.
it's a
Wow.
year older. Whoa. So
I
anyway,
want to see a musical about this plant. That would be so much better.
oh man, would that be incredible? A whole musical based on the pot plant and what it's seen through the years.
Yeah.
And it's always talking about that one year to Hamilton that he didn't get
Yeah.
to experience.
Oh, you missed so much.
Oh yeah, no, that was like 1775. That was, yeah, crazy,
was
crazy
huge,
year,
yeah.
man, crazy. So sorry, this just an embarrassing thing that happened when I was in Boston. We last year with Fish, we went to America very briefly, and James Harkin and I were walking in Harvard, and I said too many dumb things on our walk there. One was, first thing when we walked out, I looked at the campuses and I went, wow, man, I can't believe it. This is where Patch Adams went to university. Um, and Patch Adams, if you don't know him, is not someone who comes first to your head when you think of Harvard. Anyway, it turns out I found out later the day he didn't even go to Harvard, so that was a pointless thing to have even said. But we were walking to Mark Abrams's house, who runs the Ig Nobel Prizes, who I was talking about earlier. If you didn't hear that bit, head to my story and show us your shit, earlier chats, and we were talking about the Ig Nobel Prizes. And so we went to his house. He had this big party there, which was really fun. And on the way, I saw a building, and on the side it said 1556. And it looked like, to me, surprisingly modern. And I was like, fucking hell, man, like that, look at history here. We're here 1556, this building was made. And James looked at me really puzzled, trying to work out if I was joking, which I definitely wasn't. Anyway, what it was the number of the building on the street. So 1558 was just next to it, which I didn't see. And this building was like definitely
the other way down, just being like, they're just getting older and older. Getting all the way down to year one. It's like, oh my god, this is a year after Jesus was born.
Yeah. But after Jesus was born, so you'll be like, man, the year zero. Whew, wish you were there, building in Harvard. So what is your what's your last thing that you're going to show us
Oh, okay. Let's give me
before we
that.
head
I
off?
have one
And by the
from
way,
you.
sorry, Alex, sorry,
Mhm.
to cut you off. I just quickly to everyone watching, just out of curiosity, I was kind of thinking of doing this every night with someone different. So give me like a thumbs up or a thumbs down. I don't mind a thumbs down, but like if you reckon this might be something fun to do, I do know some pretty fun people, and it would be cool to see what shit they've got in their house. And I might have to take a break. My wife and my wife is giving birth to our second child next Wednesday. So we might disappear for a couple of nights, probably a few more. So this could be a
Yeah,
very short-lived
don't
series.
do one from the hospital. I don't think it'll go down well.
Man, my brother's watching in Australia. And everyone, if you're
Oh, hey,
following the
Bluey.
comments, AWC Schreiber, Bluey Schreiber. Oh man, coolest guy in the world. That's so cool. Hey Blue, what's up, dude? And oh my God, Kristen, my old flatmate, who Alex lived in. So Alex is currently living in a flat that I used to live in, although in the same building. He's moved to a different bit of it, but he was in our flat. So Kristen, who is watching this right now, was my flatmate in the flat downstairs in the building that you
Oh yeah,
were in.
welcome back. Kind of. This is
Yeah,
this is just up to 2 floors,
Alex has
but
moved
everyone looks
up
the
two
same. It's
floors.
like it looks exactly the same.
Yeah, and check this out, Alex. If Jamie's still on, Jamie Morton,
Yeah,
my
he
dad
is.
wrote a porno. Alice Levine of My Dad Wrote a Porno used to live down the road from this building that you're living in as well, but we didn't know each other at the time.
This is so uninteresting for everyone who's not this group of people that
No,
we're talking about.
I'm trying to show podcast connections that are
You could write that
slowly.
book. You could write 1,001 podcasters who lived quite close to each other.
Yeah, or like the Richard Curtis's Who's Had Who,
Yeah.
and it's just blank pages. None of us have had none. No, no one has dragged anyone to do with anyone. Um, So yeah. Thanks, Evie. Love the connection. Yeah, and Dan Neeson is
Dan
online.
Easton, hey Dan.
Guys, everyone, if you're tuning in, this is getting very exciting on the old comments here. So Dan Neeson is my best friend from school in Australia. He and I live together in London. Anyway, let's get back to your final item. I'm very sorry to
Final thing,
cut you
final
off.
thing. Okay, final thing is I'm going to go with this. Hang on a second. Can I turn my lights? It is. It's not that easy to see actually, but it's a like record, and it's a record that's actually, if you read the inscription. No, you can't read the inscription because it's too. Oh, there we go.
Oh yeah,
It's,
there we go.
yeah,
There we go.
you can see that. Yeah, it's a record from the 1950s from the Soviet Union, and it's a bootleg record that was printed on X-ray paper. So it's like literally like the paper. And if you can see, you can actually see there's a sort of this has actually got a bit of a pelvis on it and some of the bottom of a spine. It's a bit difficult to see in this light, but it's literally like a record that was made using X-ray paper, because back in the day in the 50s, there were lots of bands that music that was banned, and so there was a massive black market for music, and these were pretty unreliable. They only played like 7 or 8 times, and they were quite expensive, but I think they were also quite cool objects to have. So people bought lots of them, and they were called like rock on bones, or like bone music, or rock music. There's lots of puns.
This
We're
this
gonna put this
was
on
yeah.
QI when we start recording again, actually.
This was amazing. So I remember reading about this. The Beatles became massive there, but no one was able to buy them. So the black market was completely saturated with people donating all of their X-rays and discarded X-rays from the hospitals. And you could buy the White Album and Abbey Road and Please Please Me and all that on these X-rays on chests and leg bones and of people over there on the black market. I mean, that's so, I didn't realize you had one. That's so
Well,
cool.
yeah, I bought it, so we're gonna put it on QI when I've done a rock and roll episode of QI which hasn't recorded yet because we delayed it. But when we're back in the studio, we're gonna try and play it on the show, and then I think when I get it back, I might try and frame it in a light box or something so that you can
That's
actually
really cool. So you can see it.
Yeah.
You should, near your London Underground sign. Just let it go
Yeah.
through that. So I weirdly, this is something I did know about as a story. And years ago with Fish, when we were in our first year, we released a vinyl, which obviously you know, but I'm just saying for anyone watching who might not know it, Alex has got one here. We created a no such thing as a Fish vinyl. So here's the cover. It just looks like you've printed out our logo in a very big bit of paper, but that's actually the
original
record
design of the logo.
Yeah, and Alex designed this logo as well, by the way. And have you got the vinyl inside it by any chance?
Yeah.
Oh, and it's a yellow vinyl. Look at that. How
Yeah.
cool is that? So this is our vinyl, and we did an exclusive episode on it. Has one of my favorite facts that I found out for Fish, which is when Guy Fawkes was caught and the police were arresting him and they asked him for his name. He didn't want to give his name, Guy Fawkes, and he freaked out trying to work out what name he could give them. So the name that's recorded as him when they went, "What's your name?" He said, "It's John Johnson." So John Johnson is who they thought they caught on the evening until working out it was Guy Fawkes. But we did that vinyl, and with Alcopop Records, who are a super cool record label. The theme tune for our show, which is by Emperor Yes, and it's called Wasps. Ash, who's my best friend from Hong Kong, it's his record label, and he put us in touch with them. And one of the things that we were going to do with that vinyl was I wanted a special edition, which was release the vinyl on X-rays of us. So let's do a very limited run of pressings of whatever X-rays could be done of the four podcasters.
Oh, cool. You were going to make a rock on.
Yeah. And Jack from Alcopop looked into it to see if it was possible, and we just couldn't do it in time for the timeline. And also everyone else was like, well, we don't have X-rays. How are we going to get X-rays? And I actually do have one X-ray of myself, which was from when I was 15 years old, and it's of my testicles, and I was going to use that. I was going to put out a Fish vinyl. I had like a worrying thing when I was a kid that I needed checked out, and so as a result,
I thought it might be a bit like when you photocopy your ass at the Christmas party type deal. Like if you're a doctor, you like X-ray penis.
That would have been so good. It never happened, unfortunately, but maybe if we do another vinyl, that would be awesome.
That'd be so cool.
A special edition Dan Schreiber testicle vinyl. Cool. Okay. This was really fun. I hope everyone watching it found it fun as well. Alex has amazing shit in his house. Really, really cool stuff. We probably haven't seen like even a tenth of what you've got there, but what would be really cool is if I posted just on my feed just a little thing saying that we were going to do this tonight, and if anyone can think of anyone interesting who might be good at this, or if you'd like to see more. I haven't worked out who will be next. I know that there's a lot of fun people. So sorry, C. Batesy one is asking who might be good for this. If you can think of anyone, let me know, because they might just be up for it. You never know. We're all at home at the moment. There's a few people I'd love to ask. There's a guy called Craig, who's the editor-in-chief of the Guinness World Records. We became friends recently. I want to ask him because, you know, he must have amazing stuff at his house, right?
I bet Jason Hazley, the comedy writer, has some good
Jason
stuff.
Hazley will have fantastic stuff. Jason Hazley, if you guys don't know him, he's a comedy writer who wrote the Ladybird books. You know, those recent spate of comedy versions of the Ladybird books, you know, The Hangover and so on. He's amazing, and he's done really cool things. Like he
Jason
plays
and Joel
piano.
have written everything. Like they've written all the comedy shows.
They've written Mitchell and Webb. They write for Charlie Brooker's Screenwipe. They did Kunk on everything. They run the podcast Rule of Three. They're awesome. So yeah, so Hazley would be amazing. Jamie Morton and My Dad Wrote a Porno. He will be awesome. He says he doesn't have anything. He'll have stuff. He's got cool shit. He'd just be great to chat to anyway. James Harkin is not cool, says his sister, Katie. Hey, Katie. But yeah, James has a lot of cool stuff, but I'd rather get Katie on. So Katie, if you're up for it, that would be really cool. Anyway, guys, this has been really fun. Thank you so much for tuning in. There was way more people watching than I thought. I thought there would be like 3 people, but we're over 100, so that's really fun. And do follow Alex on Twitter. One of the funniest people on Twitter, particularly in this isolation period.
I'm going mad.
He's going mad, and it's so fun. It's so good. It's so amazing. And he's constantly just not only funny but interesting. And hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. Very cool. So Alex, I'm gonna press end. So do you want to say anything before I do the?
Thank you very much for watching, everyone, and thank you, Dan, for having this idea. This is great fun. And
cool, man.
Everything off. All right, ready?
Sweet. Everyone, stay safe. I really hope you're doing well. I really hope all your family's well. It is fucking weird times, but stay indoors, stay safe. We'll get through this. I love how everyone says that. I mean, but we need it. It's nice to say it to each other. I can't, who the fuck am I?
Jason
but like,
Hasty wrote the original Remain Indoors sketch on Michelin Web. He came up with that phrase. Now everyone's using it. It's the most high value phrase there is.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
There's a sketch called The Quiz Show on Michelin Web,
Yeah.
which is like a post-apocalyptic quiz show hosted by David Mitchell. And every so often, he says, hello and welcome, and remain indoors. And it's like a sort of BBC show that's being broadcast out as a quiz show, but the whole time, everyone on the show is just saying, remain indoors, don't go outside. They keep flashing up the words remain indoors, and that's basically what's happening in real life now.
Cool. Okay. Well, we'll get Hazley on. Amazing. All right, guys. Love you all. Thanks so much for tuning in.
Bye,
and maybe I'm going to do this tomorrow night. That's the other thing. I'll do this tomorrow night. I'll find someone. So come back. It'll be 9:45 in the evening when my son is asleep, and let's do it again. All right. Take care. Love you all. Bye.
Bye.